Torch Bridge, 1 year, 1 week, 1 day after Pulse. With the shock of the impact still reverberating through the ship, Captain Monger quickly zipped his pressure hood up and rushed to gather a preliminary hazard report. Flicking his display through external cameras, he could make out a large, pitch-black shard of material embedded deep in his ship. White clouds of expanding gas blasted out of the damaged radiator array, blowing ice crystals out of the hull and creating a jet of particulate away from the ship. A few seconds later, the spray petered out and he heard the distinctive whine of the main power plant spooling down. Switching his perspective to the other side of the ship, Monger raised an eyebrow as the shard of void-like material passed through the ship and cleanly severed the secondary radiator array. He picked up the radio. "Torch to Coast Guard vessels, we've been completely impaled by a section of the other ship. We've lost both main and auxiliary power." A 3D diagram of the ship showed a full depressurization to the internal cargo bay. Automatic damage control was in full swing, spraying a fast-setting expanding polymer all over the place to fill in any breaches. "We have 15 badly injured crew. Air supply is stabilizing." He then noticed that he was still being gently pushed into his chair. "We've picked up a significant spin and our external cargo is damaged. We don't have any way to safely release it. Over." "Understood, Torch. This is Commander Jeff of the Jovian Coast Guard. ETA 5 minutes. We'll allocate some ships to de-spin you. Then work on getting the injured crew back to the station. Then we'll cut the cargo and tow you back to base. Don't maneuver. Over." "Understood, Jeff." "Attention all hands. Any personnel in Deck 2 move to Deck 3. All other decks get any injured personnel to Deck 3 for medical evacuation. Damage control teams report to locker number 1 for briefing." Jovian Coast Guard, ships 32, Hive, and 45, Tug, on approach to Torch. Burning retrograde to match velocities, the drone bus Hive began the show by dropping a small swarm of sensor drones to generate a live 3D map of the debris field. Once the majority of debris was accounted for, the Tug was given the green light to enter the field. Gauche nitrogen thrusters rumbled to life as the Tug flew towards the stricken ship. Floodlights flicked on, supplanting the Torch's external lighting. The pilot approached the bottom of the spinning Torch, analyzed it, and targeted a suitable hardpoint. At the closest approach, RCS was once again puffed, to match the angular velocity of the Torch and orient the ship correctly. Opening the throttle to 1% and pointing the arc jet downwards, the pilot used the force of the main thruster to counteract the artificial gravity caused by attempting to dock on the end of a spinning arm. Activating the stability assist system, the pilot locked in their current momentum, letting them concentrate on the spatial translation, without micromanaging the throttle and rotation. They burned the RCS, making small adjustments, until the Tug's interface locked on to the hardpoint. Checking the rearview mirror, they verified that the main thruster had swiveled into the correct direction, and initiated the burn sequence. A previously retracted radiator array extended out, and locked open with a chunk. The idling fusion reactor slowly throttled up, filling the air with an increasingly high-pitched whine, rattling the cockpit before smoothing out at max power. The radiators started glowing red, yellow, and then a bright white. A few seconds later, the windows tinted near black, before the blinding radiance of the arcjet illuminated the cockpit. Hive Maintenance Bay. Visible through a large hemispherical window, a line of various drones floated by and docked to the outside of the ship. Most of them dropped collected debris into a storage container, before refueling and launching away from the ship. Every once in a while, one of them would deviate from the line and pop in through the airlock. Deary checked his suit's HUD and read the status report of the SUV-sized block of metal and fuel before sending it past big yellow and black doors. "Here, Kana, open this one's reactor up. It's reading a 10% reduction in maximum engine power." "Got it, boss." Shortly after, another drone came in. The sheet metal covering on the front was heavily dented, and the arms used to hold stuff were bent in opposite directions. Deary patted it. "Aw, let's get you fixed. Robert, your team's up. This one needs a new titanium cover, linear actuators, and will you check the avionics calibration? Might be running a little fast." 5 people clomped up to the drone at the entrance and pulled it off to one of the smaller service bays. Generic construction noises could be heard as they started on it. A glint of light brought his attention to the observation window. "What the hell?" One of the drones in the queue had fired their main engines and booked it for a few seconds before colliding with something with a flash. "Brace for impact!" blared over the intercom. The loud buzzing of the deflection laser firing filled the air as people jumped away from any loose objects and scrambled for a wall to brace against. Derry saw something blaze right by the drone Congo line. A burst of rapid tinks collided with the ship, causing a large set of cracks to form on the outer layers of the window. God damn! Checking the ship's status panel, the damage seemed superficial. A few drones limped into the bay with buckshot-like holes torn through them. Liquid propellant leaked out in massive globs, causing the service bay's vacuum system to activate and collect it. Giralf, Xander, get your teams patching these up. Hive Tactical Office. The fuck was that? Unknown object, sir. We've been firing radar at full power for the last half hour, and it got within a kilometer of us before we were able to detect it. We need a solution to this fucking alien shit. Do we get any data off the UFO? Sir, that object was detected through a minor thermal signature. I think the sheer amount of radar power we've been outputting managed to increase the surface temperature of the object by a fraction of a degree. If the material absorbs all radiation, we could paint it with directed energy and use thermals to pick up the black body radiation. Our radar is obviously not powerful enough to do that. Earth isn't in a good position to help us with the lunar array. The hub's radar is powerful, but way too far away. Their lasers might work, but they're a ridiculously tight beam. We need something that can make a ton of thermal radiation to track the trajectories of the hidden debris. Otherwise, we have no idea how or where this debris field even extends to. We could try nuking the debris field. The torch is right there, and I'm sure they have plenty of bombs ready to go. That is such a stupid idea. Work on it. Torch Bridge. You want us to... What? Give me a second. Yes, I'm putting you on hold. Dave put his hand over the speaker. Captain, the drone bus wants us to nuke the entire debris field. Captain Monger turned around to face him. They want us to what? Do they know the lethal radius of one of these things? Dave nodded. They do. They sent plans to modify one of our new missiles. Fuck, they're serious. I'm not doing this without authorization from High Command, but... Get Carl to work on it so we're ready. Carl, 50 meters away from the torch. Floating in space off the bow of the now not spinning torch, Carl straddled the telephone pole-sized missile that Command had sent them in an effort to curb alien enthusiasm. Very gingerly, he took a weather balloon-sized balloon within another balloon and started inflating both at the same time. Why am I doing this? Who thought this would be a good idea? After a minute of inflating, he fed 20 kilograms of quickset metal foam into the space between the balloons, until all of the space was displaced. After a few minutes of curing, he was left with a hollow sphere of porous but polished metal. He made a ring around the circumference of the sphere with a plasma cutter and cut it in half. He gently tossed half of the sphere back at the torch and cut a hole in the center of the one he kept. Staking the nose of the missile through the hole, the focal point of the sphere was now just a bit offset from the nuclear warhead within the missile. He then put a bit more quick metal onto the nose of the missile to harden the umbrella of idiocy in place. Captain, it's Carl here. Yes, I see no technical flaw in the idea. Yes, it could technically work. Yes, this is the most idiotic, half-witted, dumbass idea I've ever heard. And yes, it's a freaking 10-megaton Kasaba howitzer that we're going to waste to take a picture with flash enabled. I'm glad I get paid by the hour. Nice. Set the coordinates, timer, and get back into the ship before its engines turn you into a shiny meatloaf. He did.